okay, no, that would count. That would count.
Yeah.
Who wanted to do that? The Congress wanted to pass that,
Yeah, but then
but then the president vetoed.
no, Congress wanted it and the president, but the Senate did it and they vetoed it.
So the Senate, what? So you're talking about how the Senate is going around and checking the president. Okay, that's different. It's related, but it's different. Veto. So here's a little graphic to give you an example. So president really has two options, ladies and gentlemen. Two. When Congress sends a bill to the president, he can sign it, he can veto the bill. Sign it or veto. Now, Jackie, yes, please write this down. Now, Jackie pointed this out at the beginning, but the Congress can't just say, oh, well, let's throw up our hands and that's it. No, 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 no. Congress can say, well, you may not like this bill, but we're going to pass it anyway. But that requires two-thirds of the membership of Congress to override a presidential veto, to go around the veto.
Has he actually ever done that, right? Twice?
There have been presidents, you're talking about presidents who veto?
Yeah.
We have had presidents who've had a lot of vetoes. In fact, Andrew Jackson, the big general, the guy who used to fight the Native Americans and all that, he's known for having probably using vetoes the most of almost any president in the 19th century. So, because most of the time, like, the most famous veto of Andrew Jackson is Congress wanted to have a national bank. Andrew Jackson didn't like the banks. He is known as killing the bank. All the cartoons of him showing stabbing the bank with a sword. That's his veto. He used the power of veto so much that the people who opposed him called him like the king of the vetoes. So, but yes, it's been used before. David, the more important question to ask is how many times have we had successful overrides? Because Congress can do that. You need to have party unity. You need to have a lot of people in Congress with you to override a presidential veto. So.
Yeah, but what has been the law that they fought over the most?
Racism.
Well, what? Not so. Well, actually, it's kind of funny you said it. After the Civil War, you had a lot of fights over bills having to do with what do we do with the slaves who've just been freed. So you said racism. That's true. Andrew Johnson, who was president after Lincoln got assassinated, he vetoed a bureau that was helping the slaves after the war. He used the veto a lot. They fought a lot over racial issues. In modern times, Obama has actually used executive orders a lot. That's another thing we're going to talk about, because the Republican Congress hasn't wanted to pass anything. So he's vetoing, but they're overriding him. So he's doing executive orders. We'll talk about that right now. Any other questions about vetoes? No.
Wait.
Yes. Give me a minute. It's making sense. Show of hands. Give me a thumbs up if you semi-understand what I'm talking about. Jackie gave me a thumbs up. What's up, Jesus? You good? Marlon, we good? Okay, good. This isn't going away. I'm just going to... So, we need to talk about executive orders. This is the other power that a president has. Exactly. They can issue executive orders. Can somebody read for me? Maybe Jair can read it since you're pretty close. What is an executive order? Yeah, go ahead.
Executive orders are orders that are issued by the president that have the force of law.
So, thank you. So the president can't make law, but he can make orders that people have to follow in order that are like a law. Now, what's the problem? The problem is, when a new president comes in, can he throw out the other president's executive orders? Yes. Does anybody here know what an example of an executive order, very big one, that's going on right now? Think immigration.
The wall.
No, not the wall. That would be a potential executive order afterwards or a bill. What did you say? Okay. Immigration. Think. Obama did what? Because Congress wouldn't do...
Obamacare?
Huh?
Obamacare?
Obamacare was a bill. That was not an executive order. He got that through. What's going on right now that he had to issue an executive order about immigration? Anybody remember? Come on. Nadie?
No.
Una persona? Nobody?
No.
Come on, immigration.
Ni vemos
Okay,
la noticia.
you know that huh?
Should have cars.
No, not that they have cars. No. Who said sending back? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Planes.
Not in maybe in planes. But there are students who are the children of immigrants or who are immigrants who are in colleges right now. And there is a possibility, since some of them are in the country illegally, that they could have been sent back. So Obama, because Congress wouldn't do anything, signed an executive order allowing what are known as dreamers, the immigrants who are in college, to stay here. Now, when President Trump comes in, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you think about it, he can take that executive order and say, goodbye, I'm doing a new one, you have to go back.
So then that includes those middle schoolers too?
That is unclear.
You don't touch me.
That's unclear. But that's David, that's a very good question. We don't know, because we don't know what's going to be. So, famous executive orders. Daisy, you mentioned race. Harry Truman, in the 40s, let's see where he is. He is over here. As commander-in-chief of the army, remember he was the head of the army, he used an executive order to desegregate the army. So blacks and whites had to fight together in the army. That was not a law, it was an executive order.
Who?
Truman, this guy right here, number 33.
What do you do?
He desegregated the army. He used an executive order to allow blacks and whites to serve together in the army of the United States. Well, that's breaking racism. Before, they were not allowed to fight together. Yes, he was the first one to break down that barrier in the army. Last one. Yes, one.
We have all these presidents up here, and doesn't that mean you're gonna have to make another card and put Donald Trump up there?
That's a very good question. Yes.
Don't do it.
Well, I'm gonna take a picture.
I don't know how I'm going to do that. I've got to figure out how to do it.
Ask if they ever do it.
So draw a donkey on a piece of paper and paint
Well,
a picture.
so,
You already won.
yes.
This is on vote.
So, but yes, that's true. I'm gonna, after the 20th of January, I will make a little card stock for that, because right now he's president-elect.
What if it takes a while?
It's not gonna take a while. So,
It's
but
gonna take a while.
not a wall, a while. Last thing before we move on. What is the other thing a president can do, ladies and gentlemen?
Make appointments.
Make appointments. Diego, what kind of appointments is he making? Can you read that for us, please?
President appoints ambassadors, public
Ministers?
ministers, judge of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States.
Thank you very much. So, the most important one, I mean, they're all important, but the one you need to be aware of, because it has to do with a different branch, the judges of the Supreme Court. Now, the video kind of told you this. We saw one. We saw it about 10 minutes ago, I think. Can he just appoint the judges, or does somebody have to say yes or no?
Somebody has to.
Who is that somebody?
So
Senate. Very good. So the Senate has to approve presidential appointments. So I'll give you another minute. Yes, sir. Bathroom, yes. Forget it. So take another minute to write this down, and then we will move forward. Give me a thumbs up when you have this in your notes. Give me a thumbs up when you have this in your notes. Thumbs up if you finished. Very good. Fernando, Diego, Jackie. Good. Marisol. Good. Any questions, comments, concerns? Do you think this is crazy? Does it make sense? We care about what the president has. No? Yes? Kind of? Too early in the morning? Too early in the morning. We ready? We move forward? Okay. So, and must be confirmed by majority vote of the Senate. One last line. That's important. You need a majority. Somebody tell me, and if you remember the number of senators, this will help you. What would be a majority vote in the Senate? How many senators?
There's three, so there's three.
In the Senate.
Not 3/4. What's a majority?
Third?
that is a majority, but senators, what would be the smallest amount you need?
10.
No, there are 100 senators. No, 50 would only be half. What would be it?
27.
51. 51 senators is the minimum that you would need. That's called a simple majority. 51. We good?
So,
Okay.
so even if they get 50, they wouldn't make it?
Because then it would be split, and if that happens, the vice president has to vote and break the tie, because they'd be tied. So you'd have the vice president, and he'd say, okay, I break the tie. It would still be.
I'm going with something.
So this kind of simplifies right in front of us right now a lot of what we talk about. This is the last thing I'd like you to write down. I know you've been very patient.
We
But
read
it's
the rest
good.
of that.
Huh?
We read that too?
Yep. This is the last thing I'd like you to write down, because this kind of gives you, the video spoke about it, but this gives you very quickly what the executive branch does. One question I want to ask you as you're writing this down. What does it mean? What do you think it means that the president is representative of all Americans? Representative of all Americans. Why is he that? What do you think that means?
He talked for the people.
David, he talks for the people. How does he talk for the people? Why one person? Why do you think he does that? Or how does he do it? Give me an example. You're right, he talks for all people, but what does that mean?
He said it was good for us.
He tells us what's good for us. Okay. What if you don't agree with what the president thinks is good for us? Is he still talking for all people?
Yeah.
Why? I agree with you, but why?
He's the president, he has more power than us.
Okay, that's one way to read it. He's the president, he has more power than us. Someone else. Representative of all Americans. Why? Think about how he gets elected. Who votes for president, in theory?
Electric college.
But, right, the electoral college. But who votes for the electors? The people. How many people? 1, 2, 3, everybody?
Everybody.
Okay, so in theory, all Americans, Brian, settle down. All Americans are voting for the president. So that also gives him what we would call legitimacy. Now this depends. Legitimacy in the sense that all the Americans are voting. This is how Americans vote. This is the person they want for at least 4 years to speak for them. Does this make sense to everybody? Any questions? Somebody want to disagree with what I just said? You can do that. If you'd like, or not. Take another minute, write this down, and then we move forward. Raise your hands, give me a thumbs up when you're finished. Good, good, good. No? Yes? Not really? Diego, could you take the door, please? Welcome back. There you go. Good to know. Dominique, we're just taking notes in the executive branch. You can start writing these down. Maybe when we get into the group work, you can copy what you need to do. All right, moving on. All ready? All good? So, they do. Going to look at our books today. So I'm going to pass this out. This is probably the last thing we will get to today. So, can I have a volunteer to pass out the books? Juan, come on. Juan and Jesus. So pass out one book. Take a book. You're going to open to chapter 8.